Go. All right. Okay. Hey, everyone. Welcome to Houston with a Problem, my new format-ish until I can make things better. Um, oh, my microphone. Hello. Get my microphone in there. Welcome, everybody, to Houston with a Problem. There it is. There's the little zombie guy. It pops up now when you do a super chat. I don't know how to change it. I don't know why it's a zombie. It's just, that's what it is. If you were on last night while I was tooling around with this, you got to see that a couple of times. That's from Alexandru Popescu. Greetings from Dracula's land. Can you explain why HYG puts are so cheap and what would their payout ratio be? Thank you. So HYG puts are cheap because it's a very, very stable ETF. It just stays at like between $87 and $88 and doesn't really change over time, unless the market takes a big dump. When the market just trips and falls on its face, because HYG is tied to corporate junk bonds, the likelihood of those corporate junk bonds paying out drops. So the price on it drops as well. So that's why it's a play for when the market might be in trouble. And because it's been so stable since March 2020, the puts and calls are pretty cheap because it doesn't really leave that range. And what people are betting on right now is that because the government debt ceiling hasn't been raised, and we are now working on basically a day-to-day budget through the Treasury to pay obligations, and likely, might not be able to pay the interest on some of these corporate debt bonds. I keep saying corporate. These government debt bonds. We might see a downgrade of the United States credit, and that could hurt the market as a whole. So I've got some HYG puts, and I'm sitting on them, waiting to see what happens, just in case Congress doesn't do their job, which looks like they aren't because they went on vacation and they won't be back till after Labor Day most likely. So here we are. We're sitting pretty. Okay. All right, so I can play with Google Earth, which is fun. So if you guys have Google Earth questions, it's right there, ready to go. I can also bring my website up, bring Chrome up if I need be. Wait, where'd Chrome go? I got to get rid of Google Earth first. Google Earth, go away. Chrome. Wait, why is Chrome not there? You son of a bitch. Maybe I can't bring Chrome up. There you go. I can make myself big. Hi, I'm big. So hopefully, well, the Chrome overlay is not doing its thing. Well, we'll bring Google Earth back because we like Google Earth. Go away. It's okay. So, yeah, let's see the chat here and fire away. Oh goodness, you guys really jump in here early, don't you? Kyle Castile, Houston, question regarding cloud seeding. I'm over here at Umpqua Valley, Oregon. Wildfire season keeps intensifying year after year. Why isn't cloud seeding used to combat wildfires? Okay, so the big problem with cloud seeding in the United States is that we're litigious. So I'll use the example of lava flows. I know it seems completely unrelated, but you go to other countries. You go to Italy, you go to like Sicily, you go to Iceland. They will actually divert lava flows to keep it from destroying towns, won't let it take its natural course. In the United States, if we did that, if we diverted a lava flow and it purposely went another direction and destroyed someone else's property, the liability is gigantic in the United States. Other places don't play by those rules. We're like, hey man, we had to divert it from all these things, so that house is going to get destroyed. Whereas here, we would sue the hell out of everyone and make it absolutely financially impossible to do that again in the future. So if we do cloud seeding and we get too much rainfall or an area floods as a result, then the people whose property is affected are going to sue the government very successfully for seeding clouds and causing that rainfall to happen. Whereas if it's a natural event, that's act of God or whatever, how it gets classified insurance, then there's no one left to sue. So that's why PG&E in California got in so much trouble after the Paradise Fire, was because their infrastructure is what caused the fire, and it wasn't a natural event. So they're out $18 billion or whatever it is. So that's the problem with cloud seeding in the United States. While in theory we could, shoot up electrical charges into the clouds and silver nitrate and weird things and get the rainfalls to come down, there would always be someone who's like, I've got attorneys waiting, and we are going to ruin their lives. And that's why we don't do cloud seeding. Okay. Squirrel themed shirt. Oh, you guys are taking bets. I should look at the chat and just pick a winner every day and just go with whatever shirt is said to be there. Okay. Repo exploding, people getting kicked out of their homes, nothing on the debt ceiling. Let's see what FINRA's OBS report is looking like, and let's talk about rocks. There we go, Resident Flea. Apparently, AMC went back on the threshold list. That didn't last long. You can only mask that stuff for so long before it pops right back up. Is there hibiscus? There is hibiscus on the shirt. There's hibiscus right there. Yeah. So, Gringo Burrito, you got it. Okay. All right. Oop. There's a Chris Taylor. Hey there, Houston. I like the split screen thing from Showtex. The reverse repo market is now competing with the repo market. What mean? So the reverse repo is when the government sells bonds to the banks. And the repo market is when the banks sell bonds to the government. And so we've got $1 trillion in the reverse repo and $500 billion in the repo, and they're basically competing with each other now. And I don't know if it's to, I don't know what their goal is. So we're looking at that going, what's their goal of this? I mean, I guess they're just creating a velocity of money of some kind, but it's kind of running on a treadmill, I guess. Okay, I think I missed a super chat in here. I did. Charith, oh man, okay, I'm gonna butcher this one. Charith Wikram Singh, I hope I got that right. How the debt ceiling situation will affect AMC. Okay, so the U.S. government has $28 trillion in debt, and for some reason there's a law that forces Congress to authorize to raise the debt ceiling more in order for government to keep doing its business. The way the tax structure is in the United States, rich people don't pay their fair share. We're always light on tax revenue versus spending. And you can argue about spending and things all day long, but regardless, the U.S. government still needs money to operate, and they need to use that money for bridges and roads and military and schools and satellites and spies and whatever else they use, and we need to raise that debt ceiling because we have a whole bunch of obligations to bondholders around the world that hold those $28 trillion in debt, and we have to pay the interest rate on that debt. Otherwise we default, and if we default, the value of all those bonds shrink and go to zero, or not, then will go to zero, they'll drop a lot. And in financial markets around the world, U.S. debt is used as a solid investment. It might not have high interest rates, but its value will hold over long periods of time very stably. And if we miss interest payments, our credit rating gets hammered and the value of those bonds plummet. And if the value of those bonds plummet, then the assets under management for Social Security, for mutual funds, for hedge funds, for banks, for the Federal Reserve, for sovereign wealth funds, for people's 401ks, for pension funds, you name it, all collapse with it as well. And if the assets under management for the hedge funds drop, then their leverage compared to their margin grows exponentially. And if that happens, then margin calls will happen across the board, and they'll have to start either providing more liquidity, which they probably won't have, or they will have to face liquidation to pay off those obligations, which means they'll have to start buying our AMC and GME and Metamaterial and Bed Bath and Beyond and Nokia and whatever else they've shorted like crazy. So that's how the debt ceiling may affect AMC and other meme stocks. Do you know what I forgot to do, guys? I forgot to get myself water, and there's a ton of smoke in the air right now. Give me 30 seconds. I'm going to fill my jar. Forgot to do that. I just realized because I'm thirsty. All right, I'm back. Just had to fill my water because I'm a thirsty boy. Ugh. Ow! Oh, that cabinet is not made for elbows. Whew. Okay. Oh, that's the stuff. There we go. Okay. Sorry to leave you hanging there, but I'm a thirsty boy. Free kill matter. Hey, didn't have a notice of this stream. I don't know. I scheduled the stream this time using Streamlabs. I don't know if that's any different than if I do it through the YouTube website. I don't know. We'll see. The Streamlabs thing is still kind of foreign and new to me, and I'm learning as I go. Oh, I just totally missed a super chat here. Here we go. Brandon Watson. You think August is the month when things pop off? I think we're going to see some dramatic changes. The market didn't really react at all to the news of the debt ceiling not being raised. That is weird. Normally when we get to the debt ceiling precipice, the media doesn't talk about anything else. They're debt ceiling, debt ceiling, debt ceiling, debt ceiling. Will Republicans pass it? What's going to happen if it doesn't pass? And they go over that stuff over and over and over. This time around, only some financial papers talked about it. I didn't see it on CNBC. I didn't see it on MSNBC. I didn't see it on Fox. I didn't see it on ABC News. No one was talking about it. So I don't know if there'll be a slow build up to mentioning the news on the debt ceiling, because usually there's a media element to kind of a panic sale, and if the media is talking about, hey, this stuff might totally crash, people will go, oh, I'm going to dump my blue chips and dump my bonds, and I'm going to go into negative beta stocks and gold and whatever else might be stable or pop. So I think we might see a build up throughout the week as big institutions start to position themselves and get ready for, the volatility that not having a debt ceiling pass brings. The last time we did this was 2011, and we got to basically 0 hour. The United States credit rating got dropped for the first time in history, and the SPX, the SPY, those all dropped 20% over 2 months. So I bought puts on the SPY, and I bought calls on VXX. So I got PB here, sent a super chat. US 10-year yield looks super scary today, but markets didn't drop. Thoughts? VIX spiking now, however, tomorrow will be interesting. Yeah, so I bought VIX calls, or VXX calls, which is a fund that trades tied to the VIX index. I bought it 108, and within an hour they're at 123. So that stuff's going up. And if there's big volatility, big drop in the market, the value of those calls could go through the roof. Okay. Is that tap water? Yes, this is tap water from my bathroom. It's Washington water, baby. This stuff's delicious. Okay. Cancel Bubble asks, are you still regularly buying meme stocks, or are you just waiting it out? When I've got some cash available, I try to get some. my holdings aren't huge, so I've spent a bit more on puts and calls this week, playing with the options, because when there's volatility, that can generate some good cash and maybe get me a nice hotel room for a night or two when I go to my friend's wedding in Hawaii next month. I've already got the muscle car. Now it's time to get a place at the Hilton Waikoloa and play on the water slides for a couple of days. It's like Hawaiian Disneyland. Was I surprised the debt ceiling wasn't raised? Yeah, the Democrats really did not fight to get this stuff done. The two things they really had to focus on was the debt ceiling and eviction moratorium, and they didn't. They didn't do it at all. Cancel Bubble also asks, I'd mentioned on a previous show that you have some sort of geology exploration company. I may be paraphrasing. What does that mean? What do you do with that? Essentially, I prospect. So I set up, I head out into the wild when my truck is working, and I stake claims for gemstones, for gold, for uranium, for other things. Sometimes I set up mining operations for the summer. Other times I just set up claims and then I sell them to somebody else who wants to fund to do that stuff. And then I also take contracts to do assays of existing mines or existing claims. Usually those are really easy because like, let's say some person's granddad died and left them a gold claim. All right, so they got this gold claim, they want to know what's in it. They pay me a sum of money. I go check it out, and 99 times out of 100, there is nothing left. That granddad was forced to shut down the mine in 1941, stopped paying on the maintenance fees with the government for that claim, and somebody else snuck in the 60s and mined the hell out of it, and everything is gone. So the person doesn't actually own the mining claim. Their granddad basically forfeited it in 1941 to go fight the war. And so I could say, hey, there's nothing there. Thanks for the check. I'll see you later. So a lot of that happens. A lot of people don't realize that mining claims are a temporary thing, and if you don't maintain them, you don't keep them. So you have to pay your maintenance fee by August 31st every year, because if you don't, it goes up to the public and anyone else can scoop your claim after that. And I do pay attention. September 1st every year, I look at the list and I see who has let their claims lapsed. And sometimes there is a big giant international mining corporation that for some reason forgot to pay their bill on their maintenance fee, and you can sneak in and claim their claim and force them to pay you a bunch of money for it. So you might get lucky. Some people have had that luck in the past that, Rio Tinto or something forgot to pay their fee, and some other guy scooped up 4,000 acres of a giant gold or copper mine, and now Rio Tinto, if they want to keep their operations going, have to pay this guy millions. Okay. Frederick Miles, debt ceiling and evictions hurt us and help us. Hurt US and help us. Yeah, that's kind of how it goes. Because the meme stocks are negative beta stocks, the harder the market gets hit, the better we will do. And that's why this is that weird situation where, for the first time in history, retail investors might come out on top during a market correction, as it were. Okay. Really, everyone's getting into HYG. So that's Stonk Mom 67. Looks like everybody and their mom from Stonk Mom is getting into HYG puts are high. Yeah, that's because everyone is right now is betting that the market's gonna trip over itself in the next 2 months, because we know for sure that Congress isn't going to do anything about the debt ceiling or the eviction moratorium until after Labor Day when they get back from vacation. So we got 4 to 5 weeks of no action taking place. And that means every single day the people at Treasury have to look at how much tax money have come in and then sprinkle payments for interest on bonds. And Janet Yellen says we have 7 or 8 weeks before we are out of money entirely. And So if we get close to that 7 or 8 weeks, or, God forbid, something gnarly happens, new variant, COVID explosion, I don't know, foreclosures go crazy, and we see the market just take a huge dive, that money might dry up sooner. So, especially if we're sprinkling out interest payments, and then the Fed raises interest rates, then all of a sudden that 7 or 8 weeks might go to like 5 weeks, if the interest rates go up. So, hopefully one hand knows what the other hand is doing in this case. Okay. This is from Erasmus. I won't be able to pronounce your name. Cure? Erasmus Cure? Hope I say that right. Might be a stupid question, but where do shares come from? No one is selling, so there is a certain amount of stocks available, or will there always be shares to buy? Think of JME. Those shares are coming out of thin air. They're called naked shorts. If you are at a computer terminal at a big hedge fund or a market maker, you have the ability to create a share out of thin air. And there's a loophole in the law called Reg Show. And Reg Show basically says you can make these naked shares, but you have to prove that if the time comes and you're forced to buy the share and replace that naked share, you know where one is. And what they'll do is they'll call somebody at another firm who owns the shares and say, hey, do you have these shares? And they'll say, yep. And then they'll write down, oh, this guy at that firm has these shares. I know where they are. And that's how we're going to roll. And they do that over and over and over and over. And that's why we are in this giant mess we're in. And with GME, the math I've done suggests that right now, for sure, we're around 500 million naked shares, if not more. Minimum 500 million. We've got 150 million claimed ownership by institutions. We've got 25 million by insiders. Get It Got's scientific poll done surveying Americans. He surveyed 2,200 Americans and asked them about holdings of GME. Comes to about 167 million shares of GME held by the American public. And then, traditionally 40% of all investment are foreigners in U.S. companies. So if that 342 million shares owned by U.S. people, another 228 million are owned by foreigners, which brings it to about 570 million claimed shares of GameStop when there's only, 73, 74 million shares available total to buy. So that's 500 million synthetics that are spooling around out there. And that doesn't even count the weird shares that are trading back and forth between the hedge funds that probably aren't real in the dark pools. So there needs to be certainly a big change, and it's going to have to be Congress that does it, to basically outlaw naked shorting altogether, so that the market fundamentals are what's at play and not market manipulation in how these stocks get traded. Okay. Oh, did I not have... Oh, I forgot to put the intro in here. Dang it. All right, I'm going to have to figure out how to... Sorry, Esco General Sun. I don't know how to add... I'll have to figure that out, how to add the intro. Nuts. Shoot. Okay, yeah. I get the intro in there. There's one person who absolutely hates the intro and they're trying to pay it. They're like, damn you. But I love it. I love my intro. Okay. Okay. Mando, Houston, what are your thoughts that hedge funds might have algorithms set to automatically short any stock retail buys into heavily? Oh, they definitely do. They literally pay to tap into the hard lines that go into the New York Stock Exchange. And they get the information fractions of a second before the New York Stock Exchange gets it for the trade, and their trading computers act accordingly. It is messed up. And the New York Stock Exchange, what was it, May? they put out this press release that was like, hey, we're going to stop this practice. You can no longer tap into our lines to get trades fractions of a second before they're made by the public. And then they kind of backpedaled on that and didn't follow through on their threats. But I think the New York Stock Exchange makes money by allowing these groups to tap into their hard lines and see what trades are being requested. And they definitely do that. Who's that dweeb who founded Barstool Sports? I forget that guy's name, but man, what a monster. But he had created an ETF back in February that was going to be tied to the meme stocks, and like would adjust every month and recalibrate every month. And then a couple other ETFs formed, and all those ETFs have done is generate new ways for the shorts to short these stocks, because they can short the ETFs and they can short the fractional shares inside of each share of the ETF, and it hasn't done anyone any good. Because while when a stock is short sale restricted, you can't short the stock itself. You can short the ETFs as much as you want. Okay. Oh, I scrolled too far again. That's always happening. Okay, that is there. Yeah, Brandon Watson, it's really concerning. I was waiting for something to go pop today, but evidently today was just a normal day. Yeah, I figured out, for those of you who were on last night, I was talking about how my Robinhood account, which I use pretty much for blue chips that I've had in there, and then I trade options on there because it's so much easier to trade options, I'll be honest. My account was going, hey, you have 8,000, hey, you have 12,000, hey, you have 8,000, hey, you have 12,000, hey, you have 8,000, you have 12,000, just blinking off and on all night long. There's some sort of glitch that happened with General Electric. So General Electric did a reverse 8-to-1 split. So 8 shares became 1 share. And for some reason, last night before the market opened, rather than those shares being worth $100, they became worth almost $900 each for hours last night before like resetting and becoming the normal share value. So that's why I was having that glitch over and over again. But there's some weird things. We all know that Robinhood is garbage, but man, their graphic user interface is so much better than everyone else's. And one of the things you can do is you can line up all your stocks according to how the graphs work. So I don't know if you can see very well on here. The ring light is making it impossible. But I can line those graphs up for each one of these stocks. And the banking stocks all have the exact same graphs. All the banking stocks, and then for some reason GM have the same graphs. Pinterest, Facebook, Amazon, same graphs. Apple, Microsoft, same graphs. Apple, Microsoft, and Snapchat. Twitter and Netflix have the same graphs. GoPro and Starbucks do. Alibaba and Tesla. And then for some reason, Disney and Ford all trade the same way as each other. So you can line these the individual charts up, and you can see like why is Starbucks and GoPro, why are they trading the same, and why is General Motors trading the same as Goldman Sachs? And you might see, okay, yeah, tech stocks, you got your Microsofts and your Amazons and your Apples or whatever, those might trade the same, but there's also ones that are just completely unrelated to each other in market. So it must be certain funds like creating liquidity, pumping a stock, whatever they might be doing, and so they match up weird. It's really interesting to see. I like to open that app and move those things around and match the graphs to their counterparts. Okay. Yeah, Goldman dumped 25% of their equity holdings. Frederick Miles says there will be once market crashes. Goldman has dumped, as well as MS. I'm not sure where MS is. Microsoft. Once they're ready, they will turn the media narratives. They probably will. They're probably saying, "Hey, CNBC, don't quite talk about this yet. We're still making some moves." And then, on Thursday, start hammering the debt ceiling hard, so that everyone else panics and starts selling, and then people make their fortunes off of that. Yeah. One Lambo, one Corolla. Uh, oh, it's 1 o'clock. It's the aftermarket. Indexes are starting to drop hard. Is that what I just saw? So the market's closed. Well, I'll say 1 o'clock because that's the time it closes here in the West Coast. It's closing hours. Let's see what the after hours market does. Frederick Miles, uranium is the future. Overdue for a rip your face off rally. Houston, have you ever scouted in Namibia? No, but in 2019, I was supposed to go. No, 2018. What year is this? 2018. I was supposed to go to Namibia. I was in my last term of a master's degree, and I was really procrastinating from doing my thesis, and I was going to use my financial aid money to fly to Namibia, rent a 4-wheel drive camper, and then just drive across the country for a month. My student aid money never came. It didn't come, and it didn't come, and it didn't come, and the plane took off, and I was stuck at home, and I didn't actually get to do my Namibia trip. But I have hope. People are like, when Lambo? I'm like, when Namibia? I will go and just badass do my Fury Road across Namibia. Kuro72, hi Houston, a long-time listener, first-time caller. How will market orders play out during the MOAS? Will they get filled at the last sold price, or will there be some room for suspicious behavior? That's interesting because, what we're seeing in the market is there's the bid and there's the ask. And there's been big gaps between those two. And the market makers flood the market with naked shares to get those bid prices. So those market makers may be facing margin calls when the MOAS happens. So likelihood, when we get that big spread between the bid and ask, there won't be anyone who can fill the market orders with naked shares. So we're probably looking at those trading computers just buying whatever's the lowest ask price and then moving on to the next one, unless people jump in and just flood, sell it market, and do that. So that's my guess. All right. Somebody let the dog outside, and now they close the door on her, and she's scratching the door. So I have to leave for 15 seconds and let her in. 1 sec. Ugh. We're back. She's inside. She's no longer destroying the door with her claws. Have I ever had to leave this much doing a show before? Everything's just, yeah. Can you say assays again? Assays. Okay. What do you feel when your birthday comes and we don't say happy birthday to you? It will be the greatest birthday present you ever gave me. Okay. Matthew Abner. It's like the SEC and government are ready to just step out of the way and let the market crumble and then rebuild the pieces with new rules. That might be it. They may just let the whole thing just turn to dust and then come in and say, okay, reg show is out. We're putting a 2-day limit on any naked sales. We're going to fine people like crazy if they do naked short. I think one of the big things is that the market needs to do is they need to make malfeasance absolutely excruciatingly painful. So, if somebody makes $1 billion off of breaking the law, they should have to pay $2 billion for doing it and not pay a slap on the wrist, a few $1,000s here, a few $1,000s there. They should really just get destroyed by doing that. Make them so scared to break the rules that they won't even consider it. Because right now they're like, oh yeah, don't break the rules, wink. And that's kind of what we're playing with right now. Okay. Are you sure AMC is on the threshold list? Yeah, I just got a message from somebody saying that it just went back on, like today. Where is there, go there, click that. Yeah, so they might be on the show. I think it was Pluto had sent me the message saying that they were back on the threshold list. So I haven't double checked it, so I just went by what I got sent by somebody right before the show started. I trust my sources. I hope I can trust them. Okay. Where has been your best gold mining area? I mean, just the general area you were doing placer mining. How much gold would you say typically yield, and what do you do with it? Oh, man. I've had a couple of good strikes. I have the most fun when I go up in the North Cascades to like Twisp and Winthrop. My luck there is, depending on how much flooding there's been the year before, has been kind of hit and miss. I've gotten huge yields out of the South Umpqua River in the past. That's in Oregon. Done great metal detecting in Blewett Pass in Washington. The Rye Patch in Nevada. Let's see here. Where else? I really want to do a bunch more metal detecting. Oh, my tongue does not work today. And get a kick-ass four-wheel drive RV and just hit a whole bunch of really dry regions in the Basin Range, in Nevada especially, because there's a bunch of mountain ranges that really weren't explored much because it's just so inhospitable. There's no water. And if you don't have water, it's really hard to classify material, and it's really hard to, feed the beasts of burden that you would need to do a lot of the work. So they just went unexplored because it was just so miserable. And with metal detecting, you can get some really nice metal detectors, and you can find all sorts of loads of metals. So there's a lot of really lowly populated areas in Nevada. I'd like to go explore some more for that. And, if I can afford it, do the same thing in the Sahara Desert or the Atacama, or just go to all these deserts all over the world and do that. What do I do with the gold? So I am a certified art miner. There's a nonprofit called artminer.org, which certifies you for not using chemicals to classify the materials, so not using mercury or cyanide and things like that. And if you get certified, you can sell your gold for actually above market price. And so I do that with my raw mine gold. I don't do it with the gold I get from recycling. So if I recycle old watch bands or computer parts, I have to use acids and stuff for that, so it doesn't qualify for the art miner. I just sell that usually on eBay or something, or to a gold mutual fund. There's quite a few gold mutual funds, and if spot price is $1,700, you might get 90% of that for the recycled gold, which is one thing. If you sell it on eBay, you can usually get around market price for purified gold. But with my mined gold, I sell through artminer.org, and you get like 115% spot price, because then the gold is made by hippies that say, oh, this is certified fair trade gold, and yuppies will pay a lot of money for it. Dirk Ackerman. Can you please show the most interesting place according to you on Google Earth? Oh man, most interesting place according to me on Google Earth. Oh boy. Okay, my brain. Where are we gonna go? Oh man. Well, there's geology is interesting, and then there's weird little plants and creatures that are interesting. Like Socotra Island here off of Yemen. Socotra Island is a very strange island. It's a meeting place between the Arabian Peninsula and Africa. So you have these crazy endemic baobab trees and stuff here that are really weird. And the war that's happening in Yemen is not happening on Socotra. Let's see if I can bring up the photographs here. Places, roads. Show me pictures. Gallery. All right. There we go. Might see some... Oops. Oh, weird. That doesn't show up on there. Okay, it should. That's so strange. You just get a white box. I get to see a weird bird, a weird hawk. Well, anyway, Socotra is cool. But like geologic formations, I mean, you go to the United States, cool things to see in the United States. If you ever get a chance to go to Big Bend in Texas, out here, right? Where's the crypto? Here we go. Here's a cryptovolcanic structure of Big Bend Park in Texas. And this looks like it could be a meteorite impact, but it's actually a cryptovolcanic structure. It's a volcano that the entire caldera collapsed. So you get these cool like rings around it. That's an awesome area. There's also, I'm fascinated with like big cracks in the earth. Got to get to Nevada here. So in the Opal region, Virgin Valley in Nevada. So Virgin Valley is which one? Without my things on, is that Virgin Valley? I'm gonna turn on my places one sec. There we go. That's Virgin Valley. Okay, so this here is just a huge crack in the earth. Boom! Just the earth just split wide open. It's like 3 miles long, and you can hike through this thing. And it's really cool. I think it's just called like Giant Crack or something. That's a pretty cool region. This is Nevada, just south of the Oregon border. These hot springs are awesome. You can sit in a chair there at Bog Hot Springs. Between Denio and I think the closest place is Adel, Oregon, which is somewhere up here. This is one of the prettiest drives you'll ever do in your entire life if you do it in, there's Adel. If you do it in the spring when the snow's melting, because this is all green. There's waterfalls everywhere. These dry lakes are full of water. There's all these migrating birds, like by the millions passing through. It's really cool. I highly recommend it if you're going to do that drive someday. What else would be? I mean, you can get into Canada and like Sudbury out here is pretty awesome. There's a whole bunch of nickel mines and stuff, but basically this whole area is a giant meteorite impact from about 250 million years ago, and huge iron nickel meteorite smacked into there. So everyone's mining the remnants of that meteor. Man, there's lots of places in the world I'd love to go check out, but I haven't really had the chance yet. So, oh, come on, get north again. Yeah, my little sister got to go diving in the Maldives a couple years ago when she was living in Australia because everyone vacations out there. And I'd love to be able to do stuff like that. But Namibia is my dream. I want to go through Namibia really bad. There's some cool formations in here. The Ghost Coast, whatever they call it, where all the ships crash and get abandoned and everyone dies because there's no population out there. I want to do it. I want to do it so bad. Okay, enough of that. But thank you, Dirk. All the Drakensberg Mountains in South Africa would be really cool to go see also. All right. My tap water almost made you puke? Dude, do you know what bottled water is? Bottled water is just tap water. Probably from here. We're on a well, man. That's delicious water out here. Okay. All right, Bank of America files shelf to offer up 123 billion in debt and equity securities over time. Well, I know they wanted to sell like $100 billion in bonds in like April or something, but man, they're doing it again. That's going to add to that corporate debt bubble right there. Yeah. Interesting. Interesting, William Morgan. All right. Oh, Moo Pooling just sent a super. There we go. M James 007 says, I need to go to this part in Argentina. Let's go. Let's pop it in there. Control C. Pop that in there. Paste it. Search. Doo-doo-doo. Oh, there you go. That's as good a spot as any in the world right there. That's awesome. That's fantastic. Thank you for that, M. James. I love that. Ta! It's very purpley. I wonder what those purpley bits are. I hope they're all plum trees. That's all I can say. That'd be the most delicious plum tree orchard in the entire world. That is awesome. Christopher Sawchuck. Itaculamite is a bendy, bendable rock. Have you seen it before? No, I have not seen it before. Itaculamite. Let's go to the Itaculamite images. Oh, that's cool. So if I can, I don't know, this thing might not be allowing me to bring up my, you are not bringing up my images here. Shoot. All right, I'll have to figure that out, how to get my Chrome images up again, because I don't know why it's not doing it, you jerkwad. But it is a bendable rock. Look at that sucker. That's crazy. Flexible, it's a type of sandstone. All right. Wonder where it's found. I've never played with it before. Naturally occurring yellow sandstone. It's found in Georgia and North Carolina, and also Minas Gerais in Brazil, which is where they mine a whole bunch of, and part of India, Charkhi Dadri district in India. Crazy! I want to go play with this. So, all right, Stokes and McDowell counties in North Carolina. That's one place I'm going. So, all right, it's got mica and greenish mica in there, visible. Crazy. Huh. All right, I'm going to check that stuff out. I've never played with that before. Excellent. Thank you, Christopher Sawchuck. Moo Pooling, what's going on with the debt ceiling vote? Absolutely nothing, man. They did not vote on it. They bailed and went on vacation, so nothing's going to be done until probably after Labor Day. Unless there's some sort of disaster and they all get recalled. Which, you know, if the Fed for some reason raises the interest rates, we may run into a debt crisis sooner than we thought. Because if interest rates go up, what we have to pay out on all those bonds go up as well, which shortens the amount of cash the Treasury has on hand to do that. Skeleton Coast, thank you, Pele Hawaiian. Man, my brain with names sometimes just does not do it. Skeleton Coast, that area in Namibia. So we're just sitting and waiting to see what happens. And right now, the prevailing theory in the chat is that the big funds are doing their dirty work, and when they're done setting themselves up, they will tell the media, hey, time to start screaming about the debt ceiling and get the panic going, so we can win off of our puts and calls. Yeah. All right. People talking about the NFT dividend. We're still waiting on that for GameStop. Okay. M. James just spent a bunch of money at GameStop helping our company make a profit for next quarter. Good job. Cody Blakely says, talk to those who don't know about MOAS more than those who do, and spread the word rather than build and live in the echo chamber. Hedge funds wants you only listening and talking to yourself. That's true. The more people who know about the potential of the MOAS, the more people who will invest, and the more buy pressure goes up. Well, more buy pressure should go up, but they'll probably end up trading through some sort of payment for order flow system, and we won't see it reflected at all. I mean, GameStop went down today for no reason, and the buy pressure should be making it go up. It doesn't make any sense. Okay. To-do. Can you go to Citadel Street View? I'm sure I could. Which one? Citadel Chicago? So let's see if we can. Citadel headquarters. Citadel corporate headquarters. Search that sucker. Do-do-do. Wait a minute. Where are we going? Where are we going? Here we go. Slamma-jamma. I don't think that's the right Citadel. I don't think they're out here in some business park in the middle of upstate New York. Is that where we are? Chester Springs. Oh no, we're in Pennsylvania. Nope, I think that's wrong. So maybe I can't go to Citadel Street View. It's probably like Citadel toilet urinal cakes or something. All right. Justin Smith. Realistically, how much oil do you think is left in the ground? At what point will we have to jump to electric vehicles? All right, that's an interesting question, because pools of oil, the way we think about it, we drill a hole and then a whole bunch of oil comes spurting out. That is diminishing quite quickly, and we've probably reached peak oil as far as traditional wells are concerned. What we're moving to is tar sands and shale oil. So this is bitumen that's like trapped inside of the matrix of rocks, and it's a much more expensive process. So with the tar sands, like in Alberta, you have to dig up the sand and then you kind of put it through a roasting process where you heat up the sand, you inject different fluids through it, and you get the sand to release the bitumen, the oily residue from the sands, and that's how you separate. So it's an expensive process. With fracking, these shales, you imagine you lay down layers of clay over time. Those layers get more rock put on top of them through lava flows, sediment, whatever. And in those clays, there were ancient creatures. Those creatures decayed, got squished under pressure, and turned into methane, natural gas, and oil-related stuff. But they're trapped inside the matrix of the rock. So what you do is you drill a hole, and you might drill sideways in different directions inside that shale load. And sometimes like dolomites. I think it's a dolomite in North Dakota that's trapped in. And you drill down in that stuff and you inject it with a hydraulic fluid that will just basically obliterate the rock. Just break it into million billion pieces, and that will release all of the hydrocarbons from it. So then you start sucking the hydrocarbons out. We have to keep injecting and keep injecting, keep breaking the rock, keep fracturing it, making new cracks in the earth. And there are trillions and trillions and trillions of barrels of oil trapped inside of shales. I think in Colorado alone, it was estimated there's over 1 trillion barrels of oil in the shales in Colorado. So, if we're willing to do this really expensive process to get this stuff out, might as well just take the Google Earth and go to a region in Colorado that would have these shales. Get myself north here. So, basically, the entire western side of the state, there's ancient seafloor and stuff here, and there's a whole bunch of slate and shales that are under all of this rock here. So you theoretically should be able to drill down and use fracking to get out a lot of oil. The problems that come from it is, one, it's expensive, and two, it causes earthquakes. It causes a lot of earthquakes. And of course, the oil companies are saying, no, it doesn't cause earthquakes. And I guess three is also destroys the groundwater. There are places in Pennsylvania and Oklahoma and Ohio where there's so much methane coming out of the groundwater that people can light their sinks on fire. And they come out weird colors because they aren't required to reveal what's in their hydraulic fluid they're using to frack. It's not just water they're using all sorts of weird chemicals. that don't compress under pressure so that they can crack the earth, and they just leave that stuff in the earth, and it goes right into your groundwater supply, and it ruins the water supply. So there's I would guess maybe 500 billion barrels of oil, like proven reserves of actual like oil wells, and trillions and trillions and trillions of barrels in shale oils that are left to do their thing. Okay. So Justice Smith, hope that answered. Casper GME says, can you please talk about what you think about the next steps for GME and your price prediction? Okay. Next steps for GME, I think, are largely going to be dictated by the debt crisis and the market as a large scale in general. Essentially hitting the assets under management of all these hedge funds and making them over leveraged compared to their margins. Unless GameStop does the crypto dividend. That'd be the one thing that I think can jump in and kickstart it for GameStop. But outside of that, what we're waiting for is for the market to take such a hit that the hedge funds cannot meet their margin requirements and will face liquidation and have to start buying our stuff. And once they start doing that, then the price on it skyrockets and makes everyone else be over leveraged, and then the chain reaction of margin calls will happen across the board. So price levels on it, again, I think the people at the peak will get millions a share. Everyone else will still make out like bandits. Houston, did you ever figure out how much water is sitting in bottles on the supermarket shelves? Oh man, I never actually finished that project. Ugh. All right. Supermarket water. Supermarket water equation. All right. I need to do that. That's one of those things I sit down and just try to calculate. Yeah. First, I got to figure out how many gas stations, convenience stores, grocery stores there are. And I'll have to estimate the volume of the area of that water, calculate perhaps storeroom stock in the back. Yeah, we're going to have to get, I bet there's, 50,000 grocery stores in America? That's about how many communities there are, right? So, okay, we're going to figure that one out. No, I've not done it yet, but I need to. I want to figure out how much water is suspended on grocery shelves at any one time. Totally not the FBI. Super chats. Check out Charlie's vids on 574 million puts on IWM. IWM, okay. IWM puts. Charlie's vids. Okay. Buying FTDs with Fed money and dumping in ETFs to bail out hedgies. Okay, I'll check that one out. Thank you. Thank you, totally not the FBI. All right. Is 350 a good cost basis? This is from JB. Is 350 a good cost basis to be in metamaterials? I think so, because starting next week, we should be at the T35 dates, right? So that means people are going to have to start buying that stock back. According to the most recent FTDs list, there's at least 33 million shares that have been failed to deliver as of the first part of July. And that's just the legit shares, the ones that were, that we know about. There's a whole bunch of failed delivers that don't get recorded that way because they get masked with, reg show, with call options, puts, things like that. So if it's going to pop, it's probably going to pop close to that T35 date, which is the 16th is what everyone estimated. So here we are. I think it's a good cost basis to be in metamaterial because I think it's going to go a lot higher than that. Okay. Protege Son just got in here. Have you discussed the Credit Suisse puts and how they almost got margin called earlier in the year? seeming like Moas soon. I've not talked about it. I think are those the puts you're talking about that were left over from the Archegos liquidation? I was reading something about that basically Credit Suisse, rather than paying off his obligations, just absorbed them and have been sitting on them for a while, and they still owe like $1 billion in to close positions on that stuff left over from Archegos. So I think that's where we are, and it'd be amazing to see a bank get margin called. Yeah, Preston Becker. Sorry I missed the beginning. If you could, again, if you haven't already, what the heck, man? Debt ceiling not important or what? that's gonna be in everyone's mind. I did talk about it a couple of times. Yeah, the debt ceiling is probably the single most important thing to get raised to keep the market flowing, because, as we all know, U.S. bonds are the foundation of pretty much every investment fund in existence in every nation of the world. And the stability of U.S. bonds is so important to the market that if you at all mess with that and the credit rating drops, then the whole market drops with it. And if the U.S. defaults on this stuff, man, we're screwed. So that's kind of where we are. Yeah. Okay. And no one's raised it. They all went on vacation instead of raising it, which is just, it's one of those things that if they do mess around with this and it's a big drop, I think what they're counting on is that they'll all come back from vacation, they'll nitpick and fight for 3 weeks, and they'll finally pass it at the last minute before all hell breaks loose. And that's what they usually do in the past, but not before seeing the market just freak out ahead of time. And but a lot of people can make money off when the market freaks out. If you know the market's going to freak out and you buy the right puts and calls on indexes and stocks, then you're going to come out on top. Someone's going to come out on top in that. It's just usually not the retail investors. It's usually the big boys that do all those spreads. Okay. Elaine Duncan, you're from Sudbury. Rad. Yeah, there's really cool sciences in that whole part of the plates up here. So in Sudbury's down here, Timmins is up here. So I've got 160 acres in Timmins. That is, let's see here. That's Big Bear Lake. So I'm in here somewhere is where my 160 acres are. Now, for those of you who don't know, this is the Abitibi Greenbelt. It's a really, really ancient piece of the Craton. These were mountains that basically went from New York area north through Ontario, and the rock is 2-3 billion years old. These were mountain ranges that were giant mountains a long, long time ago. And there's a lot of the stuff called VMS, volcanic metal sulfides, that were kind of pyrite-ish material that got trapped in the rocks and contain lots of heavy metals. So lots of gold, lots of silver, lots of copper, lots of nickel. And the mines here are gigantic. So this is the Kidd Creek mine, this one up here. This is the deepest mine in the Western Hemisphere, and because the Earth is an oblate spheroid, is also the closest point you can get to the center of the Earth. It goes down like 11 or 12,000 feet now. And this is a huge copper mine. It might be the biggest copper mine in the world as a result. There's, I don't know, 2,000-3,000 kilometers of tunnels alone in this mine. The open pit goes down almost a mile. And just as a byproduct of their copper operation, they've done almost $40 billion in gold. As just a byproduct of trying to get copper out. And you hit it a little bit south, you have let's see here, the Porcupine. It's Porcupine Lake. This is the Hollinger mine, I believe. Hollinger. I might have them backward. Oh, Dome Mines. The Dome Mines here. Hollinger mine and Porcupine mine. I can't remember, but okay. So I want you to think about the Klondike Gold Rush. So many tales of the Klondike Gold Rush in the late 1890s. thousands upon thousands upon thousands of young men looking to make their fortunes hopped on ships, went to Alaska, did these arduous treks across Alaska into the Yukon, and from 1890 to today, about 12 million ounces of gold have been found in the region of the Klondike gold mine. The Hollinger mine alone produced 20 million ounces of gold. The Dome mine did 10 million. Kidd Creek, as a byproduct of their copper operations, have done 20 million ounces of gold. This region alone has done about 100 million ounces of gold, which is close to 10 times what the entire Klondike gold rush did. This is the largest gold strike in human history, is this region right here. And my grandfather on my dad's mother's side was an officer in the British Army, and he fought in what was called the Fenian Raids. The Fenian Raids were this thing that happened after the Civil War. So all these Irish immigrants were flooding into America. They couldn't find work, and what they would do is there would be recruiters at the ships as these Irish immigrants getting off, say, "Hey there, laddie. If you fight for Uncle Sam, we'll give you $100 a month or whatever the pay was, and you have a job, and we'll give you citizenship and whatever." And so all these Irish immigrants were like, "Okay." So they fought for the Union, and then when the Civil War was over, they had no more job, and all they had was a whole bunch of military training and no other prospects. Come on, buddy, get up here, little dog. Come on, get up there, son dog. And so what they decided to do is they wanted to band together and invade Canada, which was a British colony still at the time, and invade Canada and carve out an Irish Republic out of Canada. So the British military for years fought off the wave after wave after wave of these Irishmen from the United States. And in 1906, King Edward VII gave quarter sections of land as a thank you to all those officers. I was like, "Hey, thanks for fighting off the Irish. Here's a piece of land in the middle of nowhere no one cares about." And my grandfather got the land in 1906, I believe, and then died shortly thereafter. I mean, my great-grandfather. And about 2 months after he died, where the Dome mine is, down here, some explorers found this quartz dome that was just riddled with gold, and it becoming, at the time, the largest gold strike in human history. And no one in my family ever cared at all about the land. And I didn't even know about it until a few years ago, until 2008. My sister was getting married, and I was hanging out with my siblings and my dad said something about, "Oh yeah, we paid the taxes on the land in Canada." And I was like, "Land in Canada? What the hell is that?" And he's like, "Oh yeah, the family land in Canada, 160 acres in Timmins." I'm like, "We have 160 acres where? Excuse me? How come you haven't told me about this? The geologist who focuses on gold, why haven't you told me about 160 acres in Timmins?" He's like, "I thought you knew." He just assumes that I pop out of the womb knowing these things. So yeah, we have a chunk of land that is somewhere in, let's see here, that's Round Lake. Yeah, it's somewhere in here. It's 160 acres undeveloped, and it sits between the largest copper mine in the world and the largest gold strike in human history. And we think that there's a good chance that stuff's worth some money. The problem is that all the land still sits in my great grandfather's name, and so we can't do anything about it until we figure out how to get it out of his name, because he's been dead for 115 years. Yeah. How did I get talking about Timmins? Oh yeah, someone from Sudbury is in the chat. Here we go. Susan Townsend just sent me $20.99 on Super Chat for talking about Canada. There we go. Thank you, Susan. All right. Okay, let's get back to the questions here. And let's bring up something a little more interesting to the eye than just the Canadian Abitibi Greenbelt. We can watch your dog run away for days. It is very flat out there. And holy smokes, are there so many lakes. Like every 4 feet is just another lake. Let's stare at... Let's stare at Vancouver Island, because Vancouver Island's weird. Vancouver Island somehow broke off of South America a couple 100 million years ago, and somehow motored its way across the Pacific Plate, flipped upside down, and smacked into Canada. So all the fossils here don't resemble any of the fossils here. They resemble fossils that were found in South America like 200-300 million years ago. Vancouver Island's a weird place. Okay, back to the questions. I'm going to get distracted again. Dr. Brule, is there a geographic location that creeps you out or you refuse to go? Oh, man. A lot of abandoned mines I refuse to go into. Going into abandoned mines is probably the most dangerous, stupid thing you could ever do in your entire life. Without having proper equipment and, a safety team there, do not do it. A lot of people want to pay me to go to these mines and assay them. And I'm like, not until you bring an engineer in to do something about this place. I'm not going in there. Then they realize the engineer is going to cost like millions of dollars. So then they don't. But I'm trying to think, is there any place I've been super creeped out? I'm not really like someone who believes in ghosts or spirits or anything like that. So I'm not too worried about places where there's been lots of murders. I camped at Boot Hill once, just for the hell of it, which is in Pioche, Nevada. Let's click on here and go Pioche, Nevada. Dink. So Pioche might have been the most violent place in human history. I think I've talked about it in the past. There's a bunch of mines there. At one time, there's about 6,000 people who lived in Pioche, and they had 76 murders before the first natural death in Pioche. It is just a gnarly place. Basically, the term was, don't go to Pioche. And there's a place called Boot Hill. It might be labeled in here. The Boot Hill Cemetery. I'm getting all turned around. It's been years since I've been there. I'm going to type in Boot Hill. Boot Hill Cemetery, Pioche. There it is. I was on the wrong side of town. So there's over 100 unmarked, unnamed graves here of murderers that were hung on the gallows in like a 1-year period in Pioche. So this entire cemetery is like unnamed graves. And so I went and camped there just for the hell of it because, what else are you going to do when you're in Pioche? But that's, if that's going to be creepy, that's pretty creepy. I'm sure there's other creepy places. I've slept. There's a Donner Pass on I-80. Let's see here. Got to get to I-80 here. So there's Reno. There's Donner Pass that comes up here into California, right by Truckee, and there, that's where the bunch of people ate each other. And there's a truck stop, not truck stop, a bus stop there. That, if you're on a long drive, you pull over and sleep in. And you're sleeping next to a pond where like people ate each other. That's creepy enough. I don't know. There's not really a spot that creeps me out that I wouldn't go. I'll go anywhere. Except for I won't enter an asbestos area, that's for sure. There's lots of asbestos slides and asbestos deposits and asbestos mines. I won't go to those areas. Don't get mesothelioma if you can avoid it. Okay. Chris Taylor, what are your thoughts on fusion energy, how to scale, guesses for when commercially available? Well, that's why we're headed to the moon. We're going to the moon because of helium-3 in the surface dust of the moon. And there's enough helium-3 there to theoretically provide the entire globe with energy for the next 10,000 years at U.S. consumption levels. So imagine every developing nation in the world all of a sudden can consume electricity at the rate of the United States, which the United States is 4% of the population. We consume 25% of the energy. So imagine now the entire planet can consume energy at those levels. We can do that for the next 10,000 years based off of the helium-3 found on the moon alone. And that's going to be done through fusion technology. Lawrence Livermore Laboratory has proven that we can smack some helium-3 together and get more energy out of it than we put in. And the University of Washington and Lockheed Martin in 2014 revealed their patents and their designs for the fusion generators that they'll be using. So the ones that the University of Washington designed are for basically powering entire cities. And the ones Lockheed Martin designed are for thrust engines for planes. So you can just take a little, spoonful of this stuff and make a plane fly around the world for years off of that. And the big part of the containment units are these electromagnetic containment chambers that will keep the energy from exploding outwards and causing damage. And as long as you can contain the energy, you can then piece it out piece by piece. The amount of energy we can get out of this material is insane. One sec, water sip. Essentially 25 tons of helium-3, so one fuel truck's worth of helium-3 can power the entire United States for a year. And there's millions upon millions upon millions upon millions of tons of this stuff on the moon. So that's why Bezos and Japan and India and China are all headed to the moon, because they want to mine these things. Bezos says he's going to be on the moon by 2024. For some reason, NASA chose SpaceX to do the moon landing capsule, even though Bezos said, hey, I'll pay for it myself if you just use my capsule. And the government was like, no, we're going to spend $3 billion instead. So I think Bezos is now going to be in a space race with the U.S. government to get to the moon and set up a colony for mining operations. I wouldn't doubt if the first helium-3 ore comes back from the moon within the next 15 years. It might not be a lot, but it'll be enough that we can start doing experiments with. China, for sure, will be setting up huge mining operations in the next 15 to 20 years. And they've got the population they can just throw at those operations. So they'll just scoop people out of villages and send them into space. Be like, bring back helium. And they will. Okay. Moo Pooling asks, he says, Silverado Canyon, where I live, used to be silver mining spot in the 1800s. Have you ever mined silver before? I prospected for it, and I found some silver lodes in the past, but I haven't specifically gone out of my way, because to mine silver takes a little bit more material than I can haul on a truck. It's very rare to find like silver ingots. It's usually found as oxidized material, so you might find it in like blue clays, and then you've got to use lots of acids like nitric acid to pull the silver out and go through a whole chemical process to get it. So it's a bit harder as a one-man operation to mine silver, but it's, if you can find it and you can stake a claim for it, you can get funding really easily to start mining things. You keep going outside and getting really toasty, don't you, puppy dog? Your brain is like 1,000 degrees. Get up there. Get up there. So, yeah, I've done a little bit. I found some silver lodes in Southern California. You can actually see from space. Let's see if I can pull up. Gotta click on my thingies here. Figure out where I am. Hauser, Tumco. Oh, this might have been in my old Google Earth on my old computer. So it was east of Salton Sea, Eagle Mountain. That's a cool ghost town. It's a whole old company town from like Kaiser or someone. And this whole town here is, look at this place. It's all these like tract homes, completely abandoned. There's no one there. That's a cool place. There was a big mine here that was owned by Kaiser. I think it was Kaiser. Maybe Alcoa. One of those companies that did aluminum stuff. And in 1984, shut down operations, entire town vanished. And I have not had a chance to go explore that place yet, but I got to hop some fences to go there and do that. But where is my... I think it was on my old computer where there's a silver lode that I found out here and explored out in the desert. And it took all day to get there. I can't find it at the moment. It's going to take me too long to... You guys can basically like... This will be my Twitch stream. Will be me staring at rock formations in 1 meter resolution going, I wonder if that is this kind of rock. Yeah. But you could... When I found it, it was actually just... I found this blue streak of rock and I was like, I wonder if that's silver. And then went out and it was silver. But it was so hard to get there. I didn't even bother staking a claim because I don't have the means to build a road or anything out there. All right. Turning off my places again. Going back to the big view. Ta-da! There's states. All right. Doing the stair. Looking for... Oh, we talked about fusion. Sitting Bull. Oh no, he's asking Tony a question. Never mind. Uncle Bruce. I'll tune in Uncle Bruce every once in a while. He's a very pleasant fellow. But yeah, he does lots of SPAC promotions for sure. Hey Houston, did you see the HYG bonds as offering a dividend? Why would a debt bond offer a dividend? Because what you're doing is you're buying, when you buy into that ETF, you're buying a whole bunch of parts of different bonds. And when those bonds pay out interest rates, those interest rates are the dividend for those bonds. That's why. Okay. Chief Queef. What a great name that is. Topical TV says, my buddy in Pennsylvania runs a business that goes around and caps wells from the 1800s when they're found. There wasn't regulation back then, so people will find wellheads random places. Yeah. So people don't realize that the oil industry started in Pennsylvania. This is where Rockefeller and Standard Oil began, was in drilling oil wells out in Pennsylvania, the oil fields of Pennsylvania. And that's the start of Standard Oil, was out here. So there's tons and tons and tons of oil wells from that region. And can you imagine like being a whaler out in the Pacific Ocean or the North Atlantic, and your entire job is to get whale oil so people can light their candles and crap with it, and then to discover that someone in Pennsylvania found that there's just like billions of barrels of oil in the earth, and your job as a whaler is now done. Like, what a weird, shift of paradigm that is. All right. Chuck Rose says, where does the power to power electric vehicles come from? It comes from power plants. The two places in North America where you're going to get the most efficiency out of your electric vehicle are going to be Washington State and British Columbia, because of so much of our power comes from hydroelectric, renewable, that the equivalent is, 120 miles per gallon or something like that. If you are in a place like West Virginia, where everything in West Virginia is coal fire, the equivalent, when you have an electric vehicle, the equivalent carbon output is that of like 18 to 20 miles per gallon. So having an electric vehicle in West Virginia is actually less efficient than having a gas-powered vehicle in West Virginia, because so much of their energy comes from coal fire. But in the future, when we have our cold fusion plants from our helium-3 on the moon, electric vehicles will have those sweet aluminum ion batteries or whatever crazy technology there is. The cars will be very efficient then. Okay. AJM asks, what happens after MOAS when brokers need to pay all the shareholders and they don't have enough money to cover? This is the chain of obligation that happens. So the hedge fund gets liquidated, they get liquidated of all their assets, and they use that cash to pay off as much of their positions as they can. When they can't pay it off, it goes to the prime brokers and the banks basically pay until they have no money left. And if they have no money left, then it goes to the insurance policy of the clearinghouse, which will pay until they're done. And my guess is the Federal Reserve will have to start doing quantitative easing, basically printing money and dumping that into the bank accounts of the major banks, who will then continue the buying to close those positions. And that's just going to happen until everything's closed and done. There may need to be trillions of dollars printed that simply do not exist right now in order to close those positions. And that's kind of what we're counting on right now. I mean, if we go to $100,000 a share on GME, and there's 500 million shares out there, so what, $50 trillion? Is that right? Let me make sure, do my math here so I'm not getting my zeros wrong. So 500 million times 100,000 is, okay, 100,000 million, billion, trillion. Yeah, $50 trillion on just GameStop alone to close those positions. So that's more money than, I mean, the entire global economy is what, 80 trillion? So we're looking at 60% of the global economy is going to be devoted to just GameStop if that price level holds. So there's going to be lots of shenanigans, and who knows exactly how the stuff is going to play out. All right, people are just giving me spots to go on Google Earth now. So let's go. Let's trust your this is from Karstim El Sharif. All right, so we're in Norway. Oh, it's a dog. There we go. There's a little Scotty dog. Hey, buddy, how's it going? I love these things. Thank you for finding this stuff. These things are fun. Nice type of stuff. You guys see the one a few years ago that was like, "My neighbor sucks"? The guy like wrote in trees or something in his yard. All right, I'm missing out on some super chats here. Moo Pooling, can you give us your thought process on finding a spot to prospect gold, silver, gemstones? Oh man. Okay, so mining gold basically is, well, you mine gold similar way to silver. You look for regions that have lots of mineralization, and those regions are usually mountain ranges. So we can just pick a random mountain range here. We're going to pull out, and we will go. We'll go to a mountain range that I don't even know anything about. We'll go. Let's see here. Let's go to South America. Whoops. Let's go to South America. Let's go somewhere in the Andes here, and so I got this whole wrinkled area in the Andes. And we've got some random mountain range. I know nothing about this region. I've never been there. I know nothing. So what you have is I can kind of show perspective here. We've got some mountains here and some valleys, and these river systems that pass through. So what you do is you head to a bend in a river. Let's see if I can find one that's not quite so filled with alluvium here. I want to get something that's a little more watery. They look a little more watery. All right, so this might be more of a dry wash because this is kind of the desert. But you look for places like bends in a river, and where you find a bend in a river, there's a low pressure area, and gold is really heavy. It's 19 times denser than water, so it's really hard for water pressure to move it. So you need lots of flooding to happen. So when this dry wash here, there's monsoon season or whatever, and there's a huge deluge of water, that's when the gold particles will move downriver along with the big boulders. And as it moves downriver, if there's a bend on the inside of the river, there's a low pressure area inside of that bend, and the gold will kind of drop out, and the rest of the water will keep flowing. So you'll look on the inside parts of these bends, and actually South America might be a bad idea because in this region, it's all dry washes. So I might have to go to a river I know in North America. So let's do that really quick. We'll go up to like Oregon or something. Okay, so gold country in Oregon, down here. Grants Pass. Rogue River. Rogue River is a great gold river. All right, so we have ourselves a bend in the river right here. So where the river bends here, it's called a cut and wash. So the cut's on one side, the wash is where the stuff gets deposited. So on this little guy here, this sandbar, you will go and you look for, you take a gold pan, scoop up some of the material in the sandbar, and start panning it out. And what you want to do is you want to find gold flakes, not just gold flakes, but you need a certain number of a certain size called pickers. And if you can get to 5 to 8 pickers, like pieces of gold you can pick out with your fingers in that gold pan per pan, you're in a really economical area to mine for gold out of the river systems. And what the gold miners would do is they would, get the gold out of the placer, the alluvial material, the rocks and sand and stuff, and then they work their way upriver. And the pieces of gold should get larger as you go upriver, and they'll get bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger until you get to some point, upriver, maybe sometimes miles or hundreds of miles, and you get to a point in the mountain range, and you're up in the mountains, and you might be somewhere like, where's a good spot in the mountains here? All right, Sandy Cove, Rail. Let's say here, and you get to a point right near Rogue Elk. I'm just making this as an example here, and you get to a spot, and all of a sudden you don't just find chunks of gold, you find pieces of quartz with gold attached to it, which tells you, hey, the quartz vein this gold is found in is really nearby. and you start looking in the hills, looking at quartz seams that come like down off cliffs by the river, and maybe, you know, here at Hint Mountain, you find that, oh, I found the gold in the quartz, and this is where my load is going to be. And that's when you start digging a hole into the mountain to get all the gold. That's where your gold mine is. So placer mining is getting the rocks out of the river that have the gold, and a load claim is when you're getting the hard rock itself. So that's pretty much how you do it with almost all materials. You'll do it with diamonds. Follow diamonds upriver until you get to a point where you find like the kimberlite pipe that diamonds came from. You'll do it with silver. You'll do it with other materials like that. North Carolina, that's how they discovered emeralds, was placer mining for emeralds, and they discovered the lode for them in North Carolina. So that's kind of the main way to do it. Okay. Sheep, duck, and cow. South Sandwich Islands. Oh, you weren't on last night. I did your South Sandwich Islands, sheep, duck, and cow. Here we go. I'll do it again because there weren't very many people on last night while I was tooling around figuring out how to use this thing. Okay, first, before we get to South Sandwich Islands, I want you to look at the Caribbean. Okay, so what we have in the Caribbean is we've got the Atlantic plate is heading west. And this is the Nazca plate, and the Nazca plate is kind of heading east a bit. And as these two plates hit, this is continental shelf. This part of the Nazca plate, you know, it's got some oceanic rock in there, but it's mostly continental shelf from South America and Central America. So it's the light, fluffy rock. And the Atlantic plate is now diving underneath the Nazca plate. And what happens is as that plate gets dragged down inside the Earth, it superheats, turns to magma, and then comes out as volcanoes. So the island chains throughout here is a volcanic island arc as the Atlantic plate is diving in there. This island arc looks almost exactly the same, as the South Sandwich Islands. These guys right here. Same thing is happening. I can't remember the name of this particular plate right here. I don't remember it at all. I should have looked it up last night. But the Atlantic plate is diving underneath this little plate here, creating a volcanic island arc as a result. So this is like the cold version of the Caribbean. I mean, it's almost the same size, basically the same shape as the Caribbean. Look at that. They're so similar to each other, aren't they? It's wild. So those islands are forming the same way. These island arcs form several times around the world. Here we've got the Aleutian Islands doing the same thing, where the Pacific plate is diving underneath the Eurasia North America plate here. Japan is a giant island arc as a result of a similar action happening. The Kamchatka Peninsula, the entire Philippines. What the heck kind of loud machine is that going on by? Sorry, big loud truck went by. You know, we've got island arcs happening all throughout the South Pacific, from, you know, Papua New Guinea, New Caledonia, all the way through. So these island arcs happen all over the place, where one oceanic plate dives under another and makes volcanic island chains. Yeah, so does that do your South Sandwich Islands for you, sheep, duck, and cow? Chris Taylor asks, Congress have anything to do with printing money? To an extent. So the Federal Reserve can do their quantitative easing with their Federal Reserve notes, which kind of pumps liquidity into banks. And then the Treasury itself can directly inject cash. They can go, okay, we're going to physically print money and directly inject cash. Usually when the Treasury does that, they send it to the banks. With the pandemic, several times they cut checks and just sent it directly to us via the stimulus, the 3 stimulus checks, which I got the first one. I never got the other 2. I didn't get the $600 or the $1,400, and I still haven't gotten my refund from the IRS, even though it's been 4 months. So, you know, where's my money, bitch? A lot of people I know never got chunks of their stimulus checks, which is so strange. Okay. Oh man, so much. While I talk about geology, so many questions fire up in the chat here. Dan K asks, Houston, do you know anything about the whacked crypto coin from John McAfee? I know nothing about it. Somebody sent me this link that was like the countdown to McAfee's encrypted hard drive was going to be open, and it was just like a spam page that just had a countdown clock and then nothing ever happened. So McAfee was such a meth head. I have no idea what to believe about that guy. I'm sure, he's a talented programmer. McAfee, anti-spyware antivirus was a good program, and someone bought him out and the name carried on. But that guy did so many drugs, he fried his brain, so I have no idea what to believe about him later on. I see you have a lot of pins around Roanoke. Well, I'll get my way to Virginia. That's from my dad's from Norfolk, Virginia, and before I was born, they had a farm in Asheville, North Carolina. So, that whole region of the East Coast is something I need to explore more to learn about my past. Yeah. Okay. All right. People watching in 2x speed. Sorry, man. Oh, yeah. Numbers letters. I thought they had 76 trillion in just insurance. So the way the clearinghouse insurance was written prior to the MOAS was essentially everyone who's a member of the clearinghouse, all of their assets is the insurance. And that's because what they figured is, one hedge fund make a bad bet here, we've got the money to cover that. What they didn't figure was that half their membership were to be making horrible, horrible, horrible bets, and we're all going to get swept up in the same event, which is MOAS. And so what a lot of the rules that have been proposed by the DTCC and their subsidiaries is that they're basically shielding a good number of their members from their bad members so that they aren't financially responsible for the bad bets that a whole bunch of their hedge funds made. And so that insurance policy being 76 trillion, I don't think is accurate anymore because they've shielded so many of their good actors from the bad actors. If the MOAS had happened in January, they might not have been able to escape that. They'd probably be like, oh shit, we have to liquidate BlackRock and everyone else and JP Morgan and all their other members. And even then, JP Morgan left. They checked out of the DTCC and they formed their own clearinghouse. So they are their own clearinghouse now, just like Fidelity is. So they're not going to be responsible for anything except for anyone who trades under them. Okay, I can do about 22 minutes here. I got to go at 2:30 today. Yeah. Avert the herd. I think the money is already printed. We just haven't seen it flush out yet with overnight repos hiding the excess cash. That's true. There's probably a lot of cash being hidden as a result of the reverse repo market bouncing back and forth. Okay. Virgil Aldea. Go to Rosia Mountain in Romania. It's a gold mine since the Roman Empire. Yeah, there's lots of gold mining that goes on in Romania. Let's see if I can get this sucker. I'm going to Control C. Taking me right there. There's Romania. Bing. Boom. There we go. So there's some ancient gold mines in this area. There's a big mine right there. Look at that sucker. There's some big mines. Lots of gold mining goes on here. There's also lots of small scale mining operations. I don't know, 20 years ago or so, there was a huge accident that happened in the Danube in Romania where a barrel of cyanide tipped over and spilled into the Danube River and basically killed the entire river all the way out to its mouth and just wiped out like every living thing in the river. So that's why when there's a lot of these mining operations, you have to be really careful with the chemicals you use. I'm not sure exactly which mine it was in Romania that spilled into the Danube, but I know it was somewhere in here. but yeah, these ancient regions that have been doing mining forever, they've got a lot of history. There were silver mines in down here in Greece that basically funded the Greek Empire. Well, slaves, olives, and silver is what funded the Greek Empire, and they had lots of native silver in the rocks. So they didn't have to use chemical processes to get that old time silver. Gold is a really interesting metal because you can find it in its native form because it's called a noble metal, so it doesn't really bond with anything. It can get trapped inside stuff, but it doesn't really bond with anything. So if you find gold in its natural state, it's pretty much gold. They might have, depending on how it melted out, it might have copper or some silver contained inside of the alloy, but gold just stays gold and remains gold forever. I'm gonna have to go check this place out. I really want to go through these Slavic regions and check this stuff out. Yeah, that's a big mine. What's this mine here? Veris Patak. I might not be saying that. Mine. There's a big. This must be where the mill is for all the tailings. There's some smaller mines up here. Yeah, there's probably lots of mines in this region. Crazy places to go explore. Yeah. Out in the Fertile Crescent, out here, like where Syria is, a lot of the ancient Mesopotamian and earlier artifacts were basically they found gold nuggets just in the desert, and then they hammered the gold nuggets into tins, and then made like plates and bowls and stuff and ornaments out of them just by hammering. So they just took the nugget they found itself and made their artifacts out of them. And then, just tons of gold in this area. Venezuela, we talked about Venezuela a bit, especially with U.S. sanctions are involved. But in the 1940s, Venezuela got rid of malaria. They did this huge campaign, got rid of standing water, and essentially eradicated malaria from the entire country. And then with the sanctions, people are desperate for hard currency because they can't get U.S. dollars and their currency isn't worth anything right now. And so people are heading back into the mountains and doing kind of guerrilla mining in the gold regions in Venezuela and making these huge standing ponds. And malaria's come back with a vengeance and absolutely just ripped through the region. So that's one of the horrible effects of U.S. sanctions on Venezuela is that malaria is now like a plague in certain regions of Venezuela as a result of the gold mining by small-scale operators just desperate for anything. Yeah, so this stuff deeply impacts, how we operate. The amount of mercury that gets dumped from mining operations is crazy. So most of the mercury in the world comes from Spain. There's mercury mines here, and if you talk to the mercury mines there, the people who sell them, like, oh no, we don't sell to gold mining operations, but no, they sell to gold mining operations, and that mercury is used to classify the material because mercury is really heavy, but it's lighter than gold. So if you run all your material over the mercury, the gold falls out and falls underneath the mercury and gets trapped there. And then the old-time miners and a lot of artisanal miners around the world, especially in South America, Mongolia, Africa, is that they'll take that mercury, they'll pour it into a pan and then boil it. And they'll boil all the mercury off till the gold is left. So that mercury vapor enters the air, goes into people's lungs, makes methyl mercury and attaches to their nervous system, and then they get the mad as a hatter, get the mercury shakes, and the spillover mercury goes back into the river systems, which then becomes methyl mercury. The river systems gets into fish, and we eat that fish, and we get mercury poisoning as a result. And the sad thing is that these areas, especially in sub-Saharan Africa, like the men will mine the gold, the little kids will go mine the mercury out of river and sell the mercury back to the gold miners. So these little kids are getting mercury poisoning like crazy. It's another thing why artminer.org is so awesome. That's the artisanal mining certifier that I'm a member of, is that they have a sluice called the Clean Gold Sluice, which was invented by this guy named Dave Plath, who lives in Oregon. And Dave Plath liked to mine beach sands, and he wanted to find a way to mine that beach sand really easily. And so he created the Clean Gold Sluice. And it's a sluice that uses these little line magnets on it. And the line magnets, what they do is there's magnetite, magnetic rock, and that black sand will flow over the sluice and make a riffle pattern of black sand on the sluice that sticks to it. And then as the gold flows over, it gets caught in those little riffles, falls underneath the black sand, and then the magnetic sand holds the gold to the pan. And you can scrape off the black sand and pan out the gold. And you don't have to use any mercury, and you can get really fine flour gold. And so they've got the system set up. Remember that one-child computer system where if you bought one of the laptops, they give a laptop to some kid somewhere else in the world? The clean gold system does the same thing. So if you buy a clean gold sluice, they give one of these sluices to one of the subsistence miners somewhere in the world, so they don't have to use mercury anymore, and they can get more gold out of it. It's a fantastic system because right now there's 100 million people on Earth that do subsistence gold mining, and almost all of them use mercury. And that mercury is flooding into our river system. So if you have a chance, and you want to do like beach mining or gold mining, get a clean gold sluice and help somebody whose life depends upon it, and help save the environment at the same time. I will promote clean gold sluice anytime, anywhere. It's an awesome invention, and it's there to help people. The WHO and the United Nations Children Fund, they distribute this stuff. It's awesome. Okay, Chris Taylor. Oh, thanks, Chris, for for the super chat there. Just showing support. I greatly appreciate it. I think I missed another couple of super chats up here. Did I? No, I didn't. No, okay, that was the only one that popped up that I missed talking about. All right. So, what do we got? O2WRX fan. How fast do you think the price of GME can raise once the MOAS happens? That's going to depend on if they turn off the circuit breakers or not. Because every time it goes up 10% too quickly, they're just going to stop trading for 15 minutes and then they'll reset. So it might take a while for it to get that far. I would say if they turn off the circuit breakers, we can see it rocket really quickly. Probably in a matter of days, get to just stupid prices. Because the market makers won't be able to flood the market with naked shares at that time if they're the ones getting margin called. So, then they have to buy at whatever that ask price is. It's way up here. They have to go get that because there's no other shares available. The price will go up in a hurry if that happens. Excuse me. Chris Taylor asks, does Congress have anything to do with the printing of those MOAS dollars? I was too cheap to pay for the extra text. Oh, that's what you're asking. Okay. The Congress may have to do direct injections into the market, especially if the MOAS happens when the market just takes a dump anyway, especially from the debt ceiling. They're going to have to approve a raise in the debt ceiling. So I think most of the money that will go to the banks will be result of those reserve notes, that the quantitative easing that the Federal Reserve dumps into banks at these loans at 0% interest to make sure that there's enough liquidity in the market to take care of these things. It's what they did when the banks were on the hook for the mortgage crisis, and AIG had issued $160 billion in policies on these security derivatives, and they were not expecting that every single one of the security derivatives were going to go belly up at once, and all of a sudden they did, and they're like, oh shit, we can't pay all of this, and they had to be bailed out by the federal government to cover their obligations on that stuff. Think about an insurance company, Geico or someone. Geico depends upon most people driving safely and not getting accidents, and getting an accident here and there for their business model. They don't expect that every single car in the United States is going to crash at once. That would destroy Geico and every other insurance company out there. So if your insurance model is to count on, an anomaly here and an anomaly there, and you pay out here and there, but for the most part, you're taking dues and you're making getting money off those premiums, you're doing fine. But if the entire market just craters and you are now insuring everything, the insurance isn't going to last. So that's when the Federal Reserve and the federal government have to step in. Okay. Oh, another Google Earth thing to look at. All right, this is from Two Wheel Freedom. Let's see here. Control C, clickety clack, Control V, search. All right, we are going to Antarctica. We are in Antarctica. Here we go. We are in the snowfields of Antarctica. I don't know what I'm explaining. Snow. That's Antarctica. Is there something here that I'm not seeing? I just see snow. That's all I see. I don't know what else I'm looking at here. That is it. Oh, maybe this thing here. No, it's just a glacier. Snow. Snow in Antarctica. It's been snowing for millions of years and just piles up and makes glaciers. I don't know what else I need to explain there, Two Wheel Freedom. Did you get the right one there? I don't know if that might not be the right coordinates. Maybe double check your coordinates and then send them to me again. But there's snow there. That's snow, all right. Sammy B, opinions on the Lost Dutchman mine. There's lost mines everywhere. My opinion on lost mines is they've probably been found and someone didn't realize it was a lost mine and they just kept digging and they got all the gold out. There's a famous there's Ingalls Gold. I wrote a blog article about it years ago. So in Washington State, in Blewett Pass, we get up here to Blewett Pass. So Blewett Pass goes through here. Highway 97 goes through. And there's a gold mining region called Liberty. It's up in here, and Liberty is a whole bunch of alluvial gold. And then Blewett Pass comes in before we get to Highway 2. So it's Highway 2 there. Blewett Pass is in here, and there's Blewett Creek, which I think, is that Blewett Creek? I might have to type it in and double check. Blewett, oops, Creek. Oh no, there you go, Ingalls Creek. I was on the wrong pass. This pass over here. Next one over. This is Blewett. So there's Ingalls Creek. So there was a captain in the cavalry. I can't remember his first name. Ingalls is his last name, Captain Ingalls. And he got separated from his group and was lost in the North Cascades. And being a dumbass, he decided, I'm going to climb the highest peak I can find and see where I am. So somewhere around here, he climbed up in what's probably the Enchanted Lakes region. Climbed on top of a peak to figure out where he is, try to find which horizon he had to follow. And when he's up there, he found this huge gold vein that went down into one of these alpine lakes. And he's like, oh my gosh, there is so much gold here. I need to quit the army and mine this gold. So he found his way out. Thought he marked a rock somewhere around here at the entrance of the creek, which is Ingalls Creek today. And he went to Portland, got his brother and a whole crew, and so they go to Portland, where his brother is, get a whole crew together, and they're secretly going to follow a bunch of guys going up to the Fraser River gold rush, I believe. And then they're going to sneak off in the middle of the night and go get Ingalls gold out in the Cascades. So they head up the Columbia River. They're making their way up to Canada. And when they get to essentially where Wenatchee is, they take a hard left and head up the Wenatchee River, and they're going to go get the gold. And there's a waterfall somewhere along the Wenatchee River, and as they're climbing up the hillside next to the waterfall, a branch isn't held back for somebody, slaps somebody, and their gun goes off and shoots Captain Ingalls in the gut, and he dies in the trail side trying to explain where his gold is, and then no one ever finds it. So Ingalls gold is a completely lost gold. Well, flash forward, this is 1860s. In the 1870s, there's a big earthquake, lots of landslides in here. So I think maybe the quartz is lost. But when you get to the 1880s, 1890s, there's a gold rush that happens in Blewett Pass. And so tons of mining operations happen in here and further south in Sawchuck and Liberty, in these areas in here. And so tons of gold is getting mined up until 1941, when World War II begins and the government says, no more gold mining. We need you to mine stuff for the war effort. And so it's very likely that Engel's gold was actually discovered and mined in that time because people were all over this region looking for gold. So that's what happens to a lot of these lost mines, like the Lost Dutchman, is that somebody got them. Someone came in 20 years later. It's like, hey, look at this gold reserve, this lode here, and they mined it out. Joris Jan, hey Houston, what do you think about GME's heavily institutional ownership? Around 110% just dropped to 53%. I have not checked the data recently. I'll have to look at what that was because it was at 212% just a couple months ago. My guess is people must have been selling off because they're making some money off of it. That'll be interesting. I'm sure that we, the apes, are buying it mostly. Okay. Avert the herd. Grew up in Phoenix. I think the Lost Dutchman was just a fun rumor from the Wild West days. I mean, there's tons of there's so many mines in Nevada alone. There's 200,000 mines. So like, there's just so many out there, and so many of those guys. You know, they're from the days of the Stoic pioneers where you could die from a paper cut in your finger from going septic, right? So these people just drop dead from toothaches and syphilis and whatever else. So there's a lot of mines that just got lost and were never found. You know, could be a collapse in the mine. Just old Red never made it back to town again. We don't know what happened to him. He might be up on his claim somewhere. We don't know. So yeah. What would Earth look like with no water? Probably a lot like Mars. Just dry and red and rusty. Okay. Opinion on the movie Moon. If you haven't seen it, check it out. It's about a guy who works alone on the moon mining helium to send back to Earth, begins to lose his mind. That's what the Sam Rockwell movie, right? I have not seen it yet, and I should. Begins to lose his mind up there for a few years. Yeah, isn't he like, I haven't seen the movie, but he's like left behind by the company, just on the moon by himself, and just goes bibbledy. I am certain that when we have these operations, they will probably be supported by quite a few people up there. But it'd be an interesting movie to check out. Moon, Sam Rockwell. Need to actually see if that one's on a streaming service and go watch it, because that's my wheelhouse, man. Ian Rain, Herkimer diamonds versus real diamonds. What's the difference? Also, if I bought AMC, will I see green someday? Yeah, you will. Especially if they went back on the threshold list like I was told earlier. Herkimer diamonds are quartz. So they're not actual diamonds. They're just cool quartz crystal habits. And they're called diamonds because they're clear and pretty. Real diamonds are made from carbon, covalent bonded carbon. So the carbon is packed into and sharing all their electrons throughout the entire matrix of the stone. And they're super hard, super strong. And carbon is not silica dioxide, which is quartz. They both look clear and pretty, though. So that's the Herkimer diamonds. Herkimer diamonds are just big, pretty stones. They're really cool. Very clear. For a lot of lenses in satellites, and especially spy satellites, they would use really, really, really pure quartz crystals for that. The Soviets, there was a quartz crystal mine in Kazakhstan they used for all their spy satellites because they could make these really perfect lenses out of them. And I'm not sure where the U.S. got theirs. I saw a thing a few years ago where some video on YouTube where these guys went to go pull crystals out of the ground in Kazakhstan from where the Soviets got their lenses from. They would grind those things down. They're pretty high heat tolerance. They can make lenses out of all sorts of things. They made I remember the name of the probe that surveyed Mercury recently and got really close to the sun. But the lens was made out of diamond. So they made a lab-created giant diamond, and they made the lens out of that because it's stable to like 6,000 degrees before it would sublimate. Paul N. Will the MOAS be multiple meme stocks or just GME? I'm betting that it's going to be hundreds of stocks. Meme stocks and a whole bunch of stocks on the OTC that we may have never heard of that just got shorted out of existence. They've been sitting in these like dead funds of groups like Knight Capital and stuff that have just been sitting there for decades waiting for their day in the sunlight. All right. Oh, it's 2:30. I gotta go here, so I'm gonna do one more question, and then we'll be on our way. Let's see here. Got Nick Nolte in here. Okay. Chris Smitty, I'm saying that right. Can you mine on public land for free, or do you have to own the land to pan? No. The 1872 mining law is the basis for the public having access to federal lands. Basically, you're allowed to go mine on National Forest and Bureau of Land Management land as long as you obey whatever environmental rules there happen to be. You can go prospect. The entire point of the law was to get people to move west and to inhabit the western United States, and it's the entire reason you're allowed to go hiking out in the forest. If we didn't have the 1872 mining law, the federal government could keep you from accessing federal lands. There are problems with 1872 mining law, but for the most part, it's what gives us access to the lands, and everyone's too scared to touch it, because if they touch it, we might lose the ability to go to national parks and national forest and camp and hike and hunt and do all those things. So if you are a U.S. citizen or resident, you can go onto federal land, you can prospect for materials. What you can't do is you can't go onto someone else's claim that's on that land. The claim gives them specific rights to mine that stuff. Sorry, I just worded that wrong. You can't go onto their claim to mine things and prospect. You can walk through their claim, you can camp, you can fish, you can do things like that. But you don't have rights to the rocks. Only the claim holder has rights to the rocks on those claims. Those claims work for minerals. They don't work for hydrocarbons or energy. So you don't get rights to oil and gas the same way you get to gold and diamonds and gemstones and stuff like that. So yes, you utilize the 1872 mining law. Head out there and go look for stuff. It's fun. Just watch out for miserly old miners who like to shoot people, because they are squirrely and weird, and there's a lot of them. All right, everybody. That's thank you for joining me for my new show where I can like show Google Earth and me at the same time. Woo! One of the viewers is making me a custom theme so that I can highlight chats and get them to appear. And that little zombie guy that shows up when you guys super chat, I guess they're gonna make him an ape. So we'll have that. Yeah, there we go. All right, thanks so much, everyone. Thank you for showing up and hanging out. I'm gonna do a show on Wednesday at 12:30. Tomorrow, I have to go to the college. I have a meeting with my director at one of the colleges I teach at. But I'll probably do a big walk in the city. And I don't know, maybe Monkey Butt and I will go live for a walk, and you can watch us like steal fruit from people's yards or something. I don't know. Well, if I remember to do that, we're gonna go for a big walk. Okay. All right, everybody. Have an excellent day.